Hello and welcome to the wrap, episode number 31. I'm Nathan Guerra. Anna Russel is next to me, and this is a show rounding up all things Zwift from the last week. Racing, events, tech, fashion. We are live today we're live on YouTube and Facebook, I believe. Let your Twitch friends know that we will be live only on those today. It is episode number 31. It is Thursday, February 16th, 2023. Anna Russell's next to me in New Zealand. I am not in the US of A. I am remotely in a hotel room in Bath of the UK, actually. And we've got a fun episode coming up at you today on the wrap. First and foremost, as usual, we're going to talk about what we've been up to with Zwift and on Zwift over the last week. What is race mode all about? As that came up last week, we'll dive into that just a little bit more with the Wahoo release. We're going to talk about the Chasing series, and of course, what else but Worlds, a watch party happening as well this weekend with the World Championships. That is this Saturday with the UCI Esports World Championships in cycling. Going to be absolutely awesome. Matt Gardiner is our guest today. He is the DS for Team USA. And of course, we have the fashion show, which you saw for that in the pre-show. The Team NZ jersey, as well as the floral pink blue gloves. Let us know what you think about those in the chat, and we'll get into the ratings for those later at the end of the show. All right, Anna, how about you take it away from here? What's going on, Anna? Because, well, I could go into what's Nathan doing? Why is he in probably the smallest, one of the smallest hotel rooms, but it's amazing. It's actually it's just what you need. Really love it. Really like it. But I'm definitely sat on a bed in a hotel room.
We've already got chat with your hotel cam. I've had car cam. You've got hotel cam going on today. And I do want to notice you're on the other side of the world. So for those watching live, he is now switched onto the other side of the screen. So I might go in and change that at some point, but it is actually creating a bit of laughs. So there we go. We've got Nathan there drinking his coffee. You've taken it out of your Costa coffee cup there. Did you get worried about the branding in the end?
Yeah, there was, it didn't quite, okay, for the intro, but now that you brought it up, that now it's a topic. We can go on it. But I was like, this just didn't feel right. Sipping on, it just didn't. So just so everyone knows, in pre-production, I was like, you guys, really? Really? And then quickly I noticed that they had some, yeah, threw it into a regular coffee cup real quick. So, I mean,
I
these
love it.
productions are amazing. Look at this. I'm literally on a phone right now. One of those sayings, what a time to be alive. I'm on a phone that's on my laptop. My laptop is doing, all of the tell me everything I need to know, making sure I can keep an eye on chat while it's also broadcasting me out to you while you're in New Zealand, able to produce this podcast that thousands of people listen to all over the world. Is pretty amazing, actually, that we can get this done, eh?
I know. I literally ran upstairs before and I said to my husband, oh my gosh, I'm sitting here in New Zealand and we've got someone on the other side of the world in Bath and we've got someone coming through from America. I mean, it's pretty insane. So, anyway, I'm excited for the show today. I'm very excited for you. I saw an Instagram picture go up that you're over in the UK, which gets me really excited because then I know that we've got Worlds in 2 days now. But should we chat about what's happening in the last week? We had ZRL on Wednesday, my time, Tuesday, kind of wrapped up the season. I was a little bit sad about that. I know we got playoffs, but those rounds I felt went really fast. But I know you got some thoughts on Rolling Highlands as that race course. What did you want to talk about there?
Yeah, I think so. ZRL was really great. Our focus from a ZCL perspective and kind of where I see things heading, at least where I would like to see things heading in the way that we organize the broadcasts this past round of this past season. We got a lot of questions, and I want to answer those questions a little bit about where I see the formation of sport best supported, and that's kind of where broadcast always also needs to aim. You broadcast the things that need to get highlighted, and there's always been this tension between Zwift Community Live has always been about, and very early on in Zwift, for reasons that had to do with how Zwift worked from a viewing it standpoint, we'd always have the A categories would be finishing in a mass start race, and then the Bs, and then the Cs, and then the Ds. And you'd have a situation where I could just click backwards, right? And that just kind of naturally happened. And so we would just hype up people from every single category in a scratch race, where you didn't need to really see what was going on in a whole lot of sections of course, unless there were breakaways or something. You could kind of maybe spot those, but for a newer viewer or for someone who's not extremely familiar with Zwift, that was very difficult with lots of that. At that point, there was massive amounts of jumping around. Like, you're just constantly all over. It's kind of just swapping virtual pixels, and like you really need to know what you're looking at. Then we got to a point where we had events, and we had to start specific events. Then we got to a point where we're having points races within an event. It's not about first across the line. It's not about just seeing where the breakaway is at and then talking about who the riders are there. So we kept coming back to this, narrative. And then it's about, when it came to what do we cover and how much breadth do we have to cover. And, we've gone through this cycle about 3 times where we grew up what I would call the elite focus of, like, we would broadcast something, a really good thing would come along. We would broadcast that series. A lot of the elite races would be like, whoa, TV time, show up for the TV time. They'd start getting more people would see those results coming in. It would start ramping up the hype around that. And then we would get a situation where that became a go-to race to see who's who in the community. And so with ZRL, I've seen something similar with that happen also, where we had Premier Division that happened. Prior to that, we had other ways that happened, like the KISS. Like I said, there's been different renditions of this. And I feel like it's another ripe time to try and help create that. So, it was about just creating a narrative around 3 different races, 3 different races. We've got the A1s, Central, Europe, both men and women, and then we had the Women's East, right? And it was like, let's build those. I wish we could have done more with the men. They were just a little bit too close to your broadcast on the East. So I was like, it's too much to try and cover 2 at the same time. Again, we're in that jumping around situation. So just for some transparency there around, like, look, I felt like the time was ripe. Let's go for this again. It seemed to really, really work. We had a returning viewership that got hyped again about the same story or with the same narratives around the same individuals. And that's what, when it comes to sport from a spectator point of view, it coincides really well with finding the other side of sport, which what you're looking for is the absolute best in whatever race that you are is being put on. And then amongst all races, you reiterate that of what's the best race amongst all races, and you find that you show it off to everybody. You put it on a podium the same way you, with a camera, though. So kind of where I see this going and why we did the ZRL this way. All right, all that to be said, I just wanted to do like that because that question came up a lot. And like, no, seriously, I think it's good for the community to hear that's what I want to see going forward. I would hope for having the ability to really focus in on regionally within ZRL or wherever we find that, you know what I mean? Yeah. Maybe whatever will expose us to the best that way. And then from there, the Rolling Highlands. So swapping topics a little bit. Great course, absolutely love it. It needed 2 sprint banners. It was like, it just, why do we use 2 sprint banners? Go ahead, you go with that. And am I breaking up just a little bit? Are we good?
You're breaking up a little, but you are on the other side of the world. But we'll see how it goes. You're okay. Bearable. Chat will come in if it gets horrific, I think. But yeah, it's I found Rolling Highlands. I was actually really excited because I loved just the course, rolling around it when I was doing the the group rides. So I was quite excited to race it. But yeah, I did find, and it almost had that feeling sometimes that you have when you do RGV in France, that you've had a banner and then it seems like eternity until you hit another banner at the Marina Sprints and the Aqueduct QOM. So it felt a little bit like that. After you'd hit that Bray breakaway, you're like, oh, cool, let's just settle in here. And I think, if there'd been something sort of in the middle, it would have spiced things up a little bit. And I can kind of see, when I watched the broadcast, I was like, actually fast forwarding to where it was closer to that breakaway Bray part. Racing it, though, it was quite pleasant because you went all in, then got a really big downhill recovery. And then as I have race mode enabled now, my V5 and on my direct connect, I just sat in the draft extremely well, saving a whole ton of watts. And it was very relaxing. But yeah, as a spectator of the race, I think it was tricky to kind of light it up. And it did make me think, and I know we're going to go into a lot of Worlds chat in the show, but it did make me think a little bit about what this course is going to be like for that first round of Worlds. And I almost think that like it could be really risky is what I thought. I've been messaging a few people and I just think that positions, say, I know like top 30 get in. I would say positions 20 to 50 even, that's just going to be a luck of the draw where you were positioned in a sprint, I feel. Like I feel like those, unless you're like in that top sort of 15 to 20, you've kind of got good Zwift craft, you've positioned well, you've done it right. The rest I feel like is just going to be this luck of the draw. Like if you've come 40th, I don't think that's because you're not a top 30 rider. I think you're literally all going to be within a second of each other. I mean, I don't know what you think. I just don't picture, there's that long kind of drag that maybe someone will break away, but a pack of 80 to 100, that downhill afterwards, everyone will catch up again. So yeah, what do you think as far as sort of how it looked in ZRL, but then what is this going to look like in that Worlds round one? It's going to be wild.
Yeah. So two different ways that, so first off, how it plays out, bananas, full bananas, like call out gorilla, wow, I mean, call it like that, or watch and wait, then nothing but like beyond bananas, right? Like, so those are the two. I'm like, it's like, because those saving up. But I think with the depths of the field now and a lot of the teams having riders to say, look, I'm probably not going to make top 30, and my only chance right now is go. And like maybe they'll let me go because they don't want to risk their sprint later. And so I think that's what'll make it, like right from the get-go. It'll be crazy. But I don't think a breakaway is going to survive. But I mean, you never know. We've seen interesting situations in ZRL where so much is on the line, and that's just in ZRL, where they let a rider go. I mean, you guys did it with Kristen Kolczynski. Like,
yeah.
we don't need to deal with that.
Yeah.
You said we don't need to deal with that. We know that we can line up what we need when we need it, and I'm not going to waste an effort on that right now. Let that go. There's 30 spots, and I know that our best rider that we're planning on, if we support them correctly, without chasing that down, we're going to be fine. So I don't know. Like that's an interesting one. On this course, then though for ZRL, you know, and also for Worlds, I just think that so wait, are we still on ZRL here? That was right. Did you like swap us to Worlds right away?
Sorry, I'm just so excited about Worlds, and I saw Lionel Viljasan is in the chat as well. So I'm just getting too excited. But yeah, ZRL, okay. You were talking about that course as a ZRL course that needed another sprint. So I guess that's kind of where we're at. And I talked through from a racer's point of view, you know, how I found it. Personally, as a racer, it was really pleasant. But I mean, what would you think? You need to pull in another sprint there to make that a good ZRL course?
Yeah, because what ended up happening is everyone just looked at each other waiting for the breakaway bray. There was too much on the line at the breakaway bray reverse, and that's it. You know, and then after that's done, there just isn't a whole lot when it comes to the FAL. You get way more with FTS when it comes through the roll through from back to front. We saw that over and over again. All the FTSs were really set from a back to front, lagging off the back into that climb, massive amount of speed at the bottom of the breakaway break because it's a rising gradient. So because it's a rising gradient, you take so much speed in from the back of the pack all the way through them, and it doesn't help you at all for the most amount of points you can possibly get on 4 laps with only 4 sprints. You can grab massive FTS points every single lap. If you're a really good, long, drawn-out sprinter, you're just going to sit in the rest of the lap. Now, if there was another sprint point immediately following the steady rise through the poster card, it's called the poster card section, or, you know, next to the giant castle, and through the mist and over to the castle. There's some FAL points over there. There's also a sprint there. Then that goes directly into Corkscrew. Man, that would be solid because
Yeah.
you sprint it out right before that descent, full gas downhill. The speeds are insane. Corkscrews going 60 kilometers per hour into it. Then it's an attack over the top there. Then you hit the lock, right back into breakaway Bray. Now we got a real on top of the race, boom, 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 nonstop. I don't know why that didn't exist. Maybe because there's no segment there and or something along those lines. And when there isn't, it's really hard to track. It's just really frustrating on that end because that would have made so much more of an interesting race instead of just kind of sitting around looking at each other, waiting for
Yeah.
one sprint to lap.
There is one point I did want to make though, which I noticed during the race, is Breakaway Bray was probably the first segment I've noticed anyway where it actually came to my mind that I didn't know which power up was best. There was Feather, Draft, Arrow. Every power up had a great option at some point in that segment. And there were people coming into my chat being like, oh, use the draft here, use the feather here, use the arrow here. All of them were beneficial. You know, I talked a while ago about when we did neon flats, and I just found it super frustrating because unless you had arrow, who cares? Like, you may as well not have even bothered. This one, anytime I got a power up, I was like, yeah, like, I can use this every time in a different way. And actually, when I won the FAL on that, whatever one lap it was, that was from an arrow, I think, just timing it right. And that's thanks to my Twitch followers, kind of around a corner to kick up and then take it all the way through to the line. So it was epic. Like, I loved that part of that segment. And I can't think of another course where it's that even. Like, you don't get an advantage. Every power up had an advantage there. So it was cool. I really, really liked that.
We definitely saw that. I didn't notice until you just said that, but now that I think of it, one of the only times I've seen in commentary three power ups right next to each other, all going off for the win of the sprint. And what I thought was really interesting was the timing of the feather and the arrow were very similar, not quite the same. And the amount of roll through speed that could be coming from them if they was timed perfectly with a perfect kick was extremely powerful. Whereas the drafting one really favored somebody starting with a sit in on somebody who's going full gas kick all the way through and saving that last punch until the last 200, 150 meters. And that made things really interesting because of the well-timed arrows and feathers were then sprinting to the line with the other person who had already used their drafting power up a little bit earlier, and they're all coming to the front at about the same time. We saw some of the best sprints actually all season long, head-to-heads, for sure on the breakaway break. I really think that section of the course is one of the best, which is going to make things really interesting for Worlds. Not to change topic to World, but it will definitely. We maybe talk about that later for that first round for Worlds.
Yeah, and we were going to talk a little bit. Do you still want to talk about ultra marathon running and why that might cause good sprinting?
Well, yeah. Go ahead, real quickly, because we talk about what we've been up to the last week. I mean, I've just been doing base miles. Let's say do mine real quick. Base miles, really good focus. I finally got over my whatever that virus was. It took forever, like a week and a half before I felt normal, to really do much of anything as far as real training goes. It kind of came once. It came after me once, and then like backed off when I got one high steady ride in at around 2 hours, and then I was just like done for another couple of days, and I was like, oh, okay, this thing's still kind of in there. It was maybe a little too early, and then just went back to some steady paces and got really encouraged actually with some of the, you for those in chat, when you look at decoupling your heart rate, whether or not it goes out at the same wattages. Did some 5-hour work and was really encouraged by that, but noticed I just need to go back to some really, really basics to see where things were at. So did that, and then I knew I was leaving yesterday and didn't have time for anything long. So I was like, well, I'm about to commentate the Glasgow Crit course, so I might as well race it because I haven't raced it yet. So I went out and I raced it, and that course is hard. Yeah, it's really hard. So but good fun. So that's what I've been up to for last week. And you did an ultra marathon. What?
Yeah, so I did around some beautiful trail around New Zealand. For those Kiwi listeners, I was in Rotorua, so it was just phenomenal. Beautiful weather, just absolutely stunning. Like you started off super early in the morning, the sun rising, and you're running through geyser fields. So you're just running this boardwalk, through like geysers going off in like dawn sunlight. Like it was just
Isn't it scary? It's not scary.
okay, well, I don't know. I'm sure we're fine. Um, and then like you run through that and then you just hit like redwood forests, like just beautiful trail, open trail through these redwoods. And then you go into like ancient forest, like really dense and dark and like gnarly trails. And then you kind of come out to these lakes and you're just running around. Oh, it's just like unreal, the trails. But anyway, this isn't a running podcast. But although I did most of my training on Zwift Run on my treadmill, because I just find it hard to get outside with the kids. So there we go. You can go do an ultra. It hurt a lot though. But anyway, my legs were toasted. Like my kids have been like, you look like an old grandma. I'm like, oh, great. But I really, really wanted to do the Scotland route for ZRL for the last one. So I was like, oh, I'll just roll around and see how we go. But my sprints felt awesome and my legs felt really good. And there's probably, if Alex Coe is in the chat or anyone who can explain the science behind how you can have completely dead legs, but then feel completely fine on a sprint and on a bike. Like are they just different muscle fibers? Because my quads were so sore, but yet on a bike were fine. So I don't know if someone can explain it to me. I guess it's just different muscle groups, right?
Yeah, and I think the deep muscle, Matt Gardiner, I'm going to give him 100% credit on bringing this up, but I think he's right. And going back through my head about how things function there, when you do have deep muscle fatigue in other muscle groups, you might be able to still have a good kick, and it might even help a little bit for some of the force work, I think, if you do a little bit of a run. But if you have to do deep threshold work, maybe not so much. So that was his thing. We'll let him say more on that maybe later. But like came to my mind when you were saying that with the guy. I can't let go of the geysers thing. I'm sorry, but like it made me think. Oh yeah, we'll be fine. Have you seen the bulls attacking during? I think it was the rock cobbler last year. Like not a bull, but like a steer in the middle of a
Oh no,
gravel race.
no.
Oh yeah, there's just these like random cows and steers out in the middle of this gravel race, and the people are just like, oh yeah, we'll be fine. Well, you'll be fine didn't work out, and it's on video out there. You can find it. Just somebody just literally getting rammed by this. I'm thinking like, oh yeah, you'll be fine. Geysers are going off. Redford Ford. Anyway.
Oh. But yeah, anyway, I've seen some chat coming in. So yeah, Tepe's saying, yeah, it's just about different muscle activation. So he hates zone 3 running, but then the sprints are good because the legs are so tense. That could be it, because my quads were literally, they felt like bricks, like they were so tight to even touch. And I just felt that like the spinning like just released them completely. So there we go. That's it. So I think that helped. What also helped for me during that race was race mode. I finally got the direct connect.
So you use race mode?
Yeah,
you use race mode.
Absolutely. I changed on my screen to have it as 3-second average because, like Barnes said last week, it kind of did my head in a bit how much it was like shifting around the power. But yeah, Durcon was plugged in. They did the upgrade overnight before ZRL, so V5 can have race mode. Clicked the race mode. Now, what I noticed not so much with sprint positioning, because I think, to be fair, when you're full sprint, you're just full sprint. Like, I'm not looking at positioning once I'm in that 10-second sprint, right? I'm just going for it. What massively helped, and I actually tested it afterwards with Megan, we went and rode for a while, was your ability to feather your positioning. Like, I was like, oh, I want to be kind of there in the pack. So I just eased off, moved, got there. Like, it was so amazing for drafting. And then afterwards, the testing I did with Megan was I got her to ride in front of me or I rode in front of her, and then I was like, oh, if this was a race and I wanted to pull behind her, so I just eased off one pedal stroke, immediately dropped a little bit, pulled in again. Like it was like that. Like the responsiveness to get in and out of draft was phenomenal. It was so good.
I do want to say with that description, I'm feeling extremely justified hearing that description, Anna, because for years I have said, and I said this last week a little bit with what I probably went off on. I got on a soapbox probably for a moment about the reality of racing being dynamic and my experience on Zwift of knowing what it feels like for more instantaneous power and saying power meter, power meter, power meter so often because I think you got a little bit more of that experience from power meters with the quick shifting, mainly because of the strain gauge being there rather than trying to find the rolling drum, trying to find where the power was at. It didn't feel like it was responding as quickly to me. And that's why I always liked using the power. It's about dynamic and being able to control myself in the pack, and people are like, what are you talking about? What I just heard was totally very similar to somebody's experience where suddenly they went from a 60 hertz monitor to a 144 hertz monitor. The refresh rate is up, and they're playing a first-person shooter, and all of a sudden they feel like they can aim at people. Like what was I even doing before? And that it so justifies also this space of being very highly competitive in skill in your ability to reserve energy and find those wheels and compete for them on the spot in the moment over and over and over again. And that's really just is really cool to hear. I just wanted to reiterate that because it sounds like race mode definitely opens up a whole new level of how you play the game and are able to reserve and find your way through the pack. Really excited about that. Super awesome. I can't wait to try it. I just don't know if I'm going to get a direct now. Now I'm forced to get a direct connect, or I have to wait for. It's the same way with my drops right now. Got all these drops, and I'm like, what do I
Oh,
miss? There's nothing to smell. I'm like, well, is there something coming down the road that'll have like the fast hertz? Maybe I see the hub, and I'm like, well, when's the high end thing from Zwift maybe coming? Or I don't know. There's things going through my head where I'm like, like I don't want to buy a direct connect. I shouldn't have to upgrade my trainer. Like,
I know, but it is really good. It is great. Barnes said, like, he was like, I cannot believe you have not hooked up that direct connect, which has literally been sitting in my cupboard for like 6 months. I was like, oh, I don't know what this is. I'll just leave that there for a while. But anyway, yeah, thanks for that, Barnes, to push me to actually do it because it was really fun. Actually, that was it. It was fun. Like being able to position yourself is fun because you move where you want and it's cool. And like when I was riding with Megan, she was like, oh, how did you just get off the lead and get on my wheel again? I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like you make someone else do the work. So it was cool. Okay, before I explode with excitement, should
that's
we
a
get in?
good. I want to take that as a clip. I want to clip that, and I want to be like, fun. This is fun. Like, because one of the things is, oh, you're too nerdy. Nobody really cares about that. We're all about making the game fun, and that's too much and it's like, no, this is what's fun.
Yeah,
Controlling your avatar more with how I'm putting power into the game is way more fun, actually, than I mean, how much more could you make it more fun, actually, because you just have more control over your representation of the power you're putting into the game. Anyways,
absolutely.
I think that's a great little soundbite for some like, hey, what are we putting dev resources into? Everyone, not just Swift, the entirety of this entire space.
Yeah, exactly. Make it fun. Okay, worlds. So we've got Matt Gardiner. He is sitting in the wings. I can see very patiently sitting there waiting for us to stop blabbing away and start chatting about worlds. So first off, I do want to say that we will be hosting a watch party for Worlds. That's Chris Schwenker and I from Zimmunique will be having a sort of watch along with us, and that'll be at the same time that Nathan will be in the big time commentating on GCN, and we'll be no doubt commenting on Nathan's commentary and how he's going with the big
The
guns there.
pressure's on.
Oh
The
yeah,
pressure is on because you guys are all going to be commentating on my commentary. I mean, Now I really have to meet up.
I know exactly, right? The community is watching. We're going to have Cy Bradley checking in. He's going to be in Glasgow live, I think, with the British team. I think he'll be at their sort of base. I've also got, hopefully, Matt also coming in, and Jen, the DSs for USA men and women. Alex Coe, who's a coach for a lot of the favorites out there, will be coming in to give his insights into how his athletes are going. So yeah, tune on in. That'll be just same time as the racing's going on the Zwift Community Live YouTube channel. So a bit of a shout out to that. But before we bring in Matt, I just do want to ask Nathan, how are the nerves? How are you feeling about getting onto this commentary and commentating the biggest esport event of the year?
It's a good question. Of course, I would think about that a little bit, but I mean, I what I thought about was like I've done this before with UK national championships. We were on national television. That felt pretty, like, oh, okay, show goes on, and I don't know what the production studio will be like. We are doing just a little bit of work tomorrow, so I'll be able to see. But I mean, when we were at I think Sunset and Vine, when we were at that, they were full on TV producing. I mean, it was huge. The place was huge. The room that we were in itself that was hosting all of the riders and then our commentary spots and then where all the cameras were coming in. I mean, there's flying cameras like movie studio, and you're in the lights are boom, and you're like, okay, whew, and you know that was I think the first time I'd been involved in something like that. That was 2018, 2019. Um, and thinking about it at this point, I think about the same way that I do. I try and get into the same mode or the same uh, place in my head and heart that I do at a professional start line now at this point when it comes to starting a race. And I've done this before. That's just I do this every day. Like, you know what I mean? Like how many times have I done this? And like the more natural you are for people, the more they feel like they can relate to you. And so you just act like my dad used to say this all the time. Whenever you're not in a comfortable situation, just act like you own the place. like that's what he'd always say.
Yeah,
Just act like you own the place, and then everybody's like, "Oh, that guy knows what he's doing. He's the guy. He knows what's up."
nice.
So, I don't know. But so that I mean, that's not necessarily what I'm gonna act like or whatever. But that was a saying he always had, and I always really liked that. But it's more it's not going to come from that much place of pride, but the humble trying to spot that when I get up to a start line that I've done this so many different times before and everything's already got put in place. Now you just got to be yourself. So that's, because you've already, done all the work. So,
Nathan, I do
um,
want to
and I
say,
mean,
I don't know if you can see chat, but all of chat is lit up with saying we are so stoked to have Nathan commentate. Like everyone is like, this is just awesome. You're the voice of the community. We feel like there's a community person there representing us and knowing what we know about courses and power ups and riders. And so, yeah, everyone is extremely pumped. So you got the whole Zwift community coming in behind you. So there we go.
thanks, Anna. I appreciate it. I appreciate that the chat as well. I see Lio, I see Teppy, I see Karsten, I see Sweet, Whitney, Schwanker, all you guys. Yeah, I appreciate everybody. If I missed anybody, because the chat's rolling, we appreciate all of you. Courtney jumping in there too. I'll be thinking about all of you as well. So it's going to be a ton of fun. And, I've worked with Cien, so I have some familiarity with them. So we've had some meetings. It was like seeing friends again. And I've worked with Matt before a few times, and I always love working with Matt and Hannah. And it's going to be great to connect with them again because it's been a little while. Like the pandemic kind of shut that down a little bit for my side of things because a lot of times when I would work with them, it was with in real life events and we were going places, and so that just hasn't happened in a while too. So it's been really cool to reconnect with all of them as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, well, on that, let's bring in Matt. Matt Gardiner, he is the DS for Team USA Men. There he is with his, and also races for Saris Nopens, as you can see in his t-shirt, and has probably, I would say, one of the best Zwift setups that you can see in the background there as well that I have seen. It is amazing. Hey, Matt, welcome to the show, and how you going?
Thanks for having me. I'm going pretty good. Got 2 days till biggest event in our sport, so pretty excited to say the least.
So we always start with a little bit of a Zwift origin story before we get into the nuts and bolts of worlds, what your role is, bit of a summary of the courses, all of that kind of good stuff. But what's your origin story? How'd you get on Zwift?
Someone recommended I try it in 2015, and I remember I used my speed sensor on a dumb trainer just to like try it out, and I couldn't get it to work for whatever reason. I don't even think I had an Ant Plus adapter at the time. Um, yeah, clearly my knowledge of like the technical aspects of it has gone up like a hundredfold. But in 2016, I broke my collarbone out on a ride, and was I didn't want to lose any fitness, so I had a power meter at this point. Put my bike on the dumb trainer and sat underneath a pull-up bar so I could hold on with my good arm while my arm was in a sling. And by the end of my 6 weeks in the sling, I was pretty much hooked, and I'd already ordered a Tax Neo. I was like, I'm gonna be riding inside a lot more. Like this is super fun. And one of the events that I did in that 6 weeks while I was still recuperating was the ODZ Espresso, like the Wednesday. It's a group ride that still goes. Like I did it yesterday with a teammate, but I did that race, and it was like the first taste of like competitive racing inside, and that was all I really needed to get hooked. But yeah, then in 2018 joined a team in the community team draft, and which is still a team today. And a few of us left draft to start indoor specialist in 2019, and that's the team that is now Sarah Snowpins. Um, so yeah, I mean, my origin story really in Zwift has been community focused. That once people tend to embrace a community, as you guys both know, it becomes a very addicting thing to do, and it's just uh, that's what makes Zwift Zwift.
So, Matt, yeah, I definitely have followed along with this for quite a while, and along with you, and being, I've always noticed that you were an anchor within your teams, I've noticed, and I think that that comes from your desire to see this go somewhere. I've noticed that, I don't think that it's a coincidence being that personality that I've noticed you kind of had to. It seemed like leadership would showed up over and over again in each way, and you kind of landed with probably a cool role within Stars No Pins, and then no coincidence that you're a DS now for the world's team on the men's side of things. Do you want to just talk about that for a moment, like your heart and mind behind why that keeps happening, and then end up in this role? Like, what is your motivation there? Like, why? Because obviously you have a motivation for the sport. Then
Yeah, honestly, I don't. I think leadership role as far as the teams go just happened. I don't even know how, just kind of naturally. I, we're all really like-minded individuals on our team, and it's just kind of fallen together naturally. I think maybe as the forward-facing person for the team, it appears that way, but I think we have a great team of leaders on Sarah Snowpins, and um, yeah, I don't really know. I don't really know how I fell into that the leadership role in the team, but. As far as the DS role for Worlds goes, I think in during the pandemic in early 2020 or mid 2020, we had relationships with USA Cycling, where we helped organize events for them, where they kind of helped take over our events under the USA Cycling name. And what was nice about that is we grew some great contacts with USA Cycling, and actually in 2020 I didn't DS in 2020, but they approached me right was I was in the hospital with my wife. My son was about to be born in the next like 8 hours, and I got the email come through like, "Will you be the DS for Team USA?" And I didn't reply for like 4 days because obviously my life was about to change drastically. Um, but then 2 weeks later, I was like, I don't know up from down right now. So the race was like in 3 weeks. I was like, there's no way I can't even like make toast for myself. So the odds that I would be able to lead the team and get them to to do well at Worlds was pretty low. But then, so I actually suggested Patrick Wally, who's on Next, and he was the DS in 2020, and then he was on the team in 2022. So he helped get me to be DS in 2022. And then, yeah, I just reached out again ahead of this one and said, hey, I had a great time doing it last year. Jen and I would like to be DSs again if you guys are willing. And they said yes. It's a great opportunity. I'm grateful to have our team be positioned in a place during the pandemic to kind of benefit from visibility, because in 2019, this is still a very niche sport, but we have a World Championships, which is something to be said for the sport and where it's come. But there wasn't many teams that were really trying to take it seriously back in 2019. And I'm glad that we were, because it has positioned all of us pretty well for the sport. And I think what's kind of amazing about this World Championships in particular is the community presence is greater than it was a year ago, and definitely greater than the first one as far as like World Tour pros that are on the start list. There's many more community members than there are World Tour pros, which I think is really unique and cool.
I just want to highlight then on that, your journey from, you got some dirt, it sounds like, in there, ODZ, you go through draft. Shout out to Greg Leo. I see the mad scientist coming in here a little bit in chat as well. And then going through to Star Snow Pins, like the different spaces that you've been in as far as teams and all the different personalities you've been around, the different ways of racing, it sounds like has really given you a really great breadth, to be in this kind of a position. And then on top of it, Stars No Pins has some crazy results. I know you guys are going for the World Cup for the TTT that's coming up. I know I see your results in the team time trial on a weekly basis. We didn't really get to cover it that much because you guys race at crazy times in the morning but it's always comes through. Oh, Stars No Pins did their thing again. The Stars No Pins did their thing again. And so your results you're one of the strongest teams by far. Definitely have the ability to race in Zwift Grand Prix level, and obviously have a ton of riders. Most of a lot of the roster, if it isn't Next, is Star Snow Pins when it comes to the USA team. So pretty awesome on that front. But so really cool as far as where Matt, where you're coming from and all that. And then I know Anna, she was wanted to chat a little bit and go into like, how do you, Anna, why don't you go into this? What, you want to talk a little bit about the formats and how Matt might see this playing out?
Yeah, because I've been thinking a lot about these worlds courses, and I wanted to have you on the show because I know if you're like Jen, she's done a lot of work into the formats, the courses, what could happen, the power-ups, all of that stuff. And I wanted to have a DS on because unlike a racer who is really focused on their own strengths, you're kind of looking at the whole picture, right? And I wanted to get your thoughts. And I guess a little bit in the back of my mind was knowing that, Sarah Snowpins didn't do the Grand Prix series. And that was obviously a whole lot of different formats. And this is a different worlds format. And I kind of wonder your opinions of each of the rounds. So maybe we'll start with round one, and I kind of want to get thoughts on, do you like it? Do you not? The course, how this could play out, and then we can kind of go into round two and then round three. So kick us off with thoughts on round one there, Matt.
Yeah, honestly, and you guys kind of said this before I came on. The only thing I don't really like about round one is the dice roll from positions 20 to 50, because it leaves a lot of the race up to just chance. I think position and timing of that finish is really critical, and avid Zwifters will do better than someone who's never ridden this course, because they're going to know how to move themselves through the pack at the right time. But aside from that, I think the format is great. It's just crazy that 70 people are going to be axed 17 minutes into their world championship, which is heartbreaking. But I think the format's good. I like that there's only one power up. They've really kind of kept it simple in that regard, where the race is going to be incredibly fast, I don't, like Nathan said, I don't see a breakaway going or actually being successful. There's just too much on the line to allow it, and I think that the course has kind of a terminal velocity where you can only go so fast on the road, and the riders are going to basically go there. It's going to be just bananas, like you said, the whole time, and then the last 2 minutes are going to be literally everything you have. And I think anyone who's not trying to empty the tank fully just won't get through the next round.
Um, on that, Matt, I did have one thought as well that I was talking to our girls team about was, do you think there's a dynamic added to where there's a whole bunch of people who aren't, Zwifters who might just look at this and go, oh, this is, what is it, 12 to 14 kilometers. Would
Mm-hmm.
they approach this just like I can just go all out for that. I'm just going to go full TT mode. I mean, and then that is going to bring up the pack speed too. Do you see a risk there as opposed to true Zwifters who'll go the races in that last 2 minutes?
I I think there will be some people who just try to blow it up because they know they're not going to get through, or even if they did get through, they wouldn't do well. So they're like, okay, well, yeah, 15-minute team time or time trial, let's go. But I think that the pack dynamics will just make the pace really hard. Like it's just gonna there's still just gonna be a blob that's going really fast, and the pace is gonna suck, and then I can't see a breakaway happening. I watched a lot of the races, the tiny races this weekend. Granted, those were like 170 person fields or 200 person fields, but the speed was just incredibly high, and it's a pack sprint at the end. I think where we're really going to see like some dynamic racing will be when that final sprint actually kicks off, because once you climb up the corkscrew, it's like 2 minutes to the finish, and I think people could launch their final effort there. And if you're too far back, it will really hurt you, especially if a lot of people deploy the burrito at that same time, um, which will be an interesting thing of where people decide to use that single burrito power up. If they want to use it in their final 20 seconds, or if they want to use it earlier, just so they're not trying to reach for the keyboard in the middle of the final sprint.
The On the format, we'll talk about this now rather than later. I was thinking maybe after talking all three, but because the elimination is so many up front, I think now is a good time to bring it in. A fourth race instead of just three, a little bit more time on the bike, extend the broadcast out. It's World Championships, why not? You know what I mean? Like extend the event out, like, and broadcast shouldn't come first. Sport should come first, of course, but that's a secondary. That more events to watch if it is exciting, and maybe the first round a little less elimination, have another round. I mean, obviously there's only three courses though, so where do they put that? I don't know. There's probably another course they can find. Do a reverse or something. I'm not sure, but yeah, that's something that's come up a lot, Matt. Like, you're obviously not the only one. I've seen that in my stream yesterday, actually. Had very long-standing, I mean, all the way back to the first esports events, people who were involved in the in real life stuff with CVR, etc. Like, I mean, saying, hey, so do you have an opinion on that? Like, what do you, an extra one maybe would have made that feeling that you're talking about not be there, where it's like, whoa, this is a lot of elimination right up front. And maybe being able to use some of the team resources, which are individuals as well as their power, throughout one extra event and not as many eliminations up front.
Yeah, honestly, I truthfully hadn't even really thought about that, but it would have been a good idea. They could have done something like an individual like time trial to start, and maybe I don't even. It's difficult. I'm glad I'm not racing because the three efforts are going to be really, really hard. But so adding another one, I agree. I think
Yeah,
that
that was a balance. That was a balance. That was something I was thinking, man, in the back of my head, where like these are going to be insanely hard, and it's not like there aren't other cycling disciplines where we see this, where someone shows up for a track event that's over, and that's what they were there for, right? And like World Championships are like that across lots of sports. You got the 100-meter dash, and millions of people watch Usain Bolt. You know what I mean? It's like that's really compelling too. So
yeah, I think that I think that the 70 people that get eliminated, it's cold. but I think that the field numbers make a lot of sense. 30 people on course 2 makes a lot of sense from just like the racing dynamics. I think too many people on that course, and there's not a chance of a breakaway. You lower the numbers and you have a much more interesting race. 10 people on the third race I can't wait to see it. I haven't seen a race like that yet, and I think it's going to be really, really, really painful.
Okay, before we jump ahead, let's go round 2 then. So round 2, you're looking at, you're calling it it's the hill climbers course. I've ridden that climb a couple of times now, and they're wildly different each side. This is a part where I personally see you could have some country tactics. Like I'm looking at USA Men and thinking, if Jammers has made it through to round 2, do you just do a Hail Mary and send them off the front? What I'm more excited, I'd say, about round 2. What are your thoughts on that from a DS perspective?
Yeah, I think that especially with the anvil, I think it opens a lot of opportunities. The first climb is going to be all out. I think that if you're not racing like that's a single hill climb, then you're going to miss the move, because if there's a small break over the top, they all use the anvil, get a ton of speed. Climb 2 on the other side is really short. And like you said, Ann, I was surprised at how short the backside was. I thought that it was going to be basically 3 pretty hard hill climbs, but the other side is just like a leg snapper almost. Mm-hmm. It's really, really steep for a second, and then it's kind of draftable. And a really determined group, if there's a few of them, then they can probably get away. And absolutely, if we get 3 or 4 people into that next race, we have to try something. Let's say we get Team USA gets 3 guys through or 3 women through. That's 10% of the field. And for our men, I think we're taking 10 into the first race. So 10% of the field for race 1, and I think we might have 7 women in the women's race, or 6 women. That's 6%. So our odds just on paper are good to get people through. So yeah, if we can get multiples, we're absolutely going to be trying to get some moves up the road.
So quickly, I saw in chat, and Anna answered it in chat as well. Dan Pedroza coming through, wondering if gravel bikes available. Neutralization across all bikes, multiple reasons for that. That's a more in-depth topic. Maybe I'm hoping maybe next week we can chat a little bit about that, because that one I do want to jump into on a gaming side of things and tactics side of things. Something in the community we see a lot with what bikes to pick, and that is a tactical thing. But there's good reasons at this point as to why neutralization has happened. 2 really good points. 1, bike sponsors. That's actually a second point in value. The first point being that bike selection across opening everything up for a player versus player environment, and not a PvE environment, player versus environment where you're grinding to get all these bikes. Not everybody's going to have the bikes. And the opportunity to just say, we're in a mode where everybody has everything that you possibly could want, just isn't available. So now once that's there, maybe we could see more of a tactical situation, and they can brand whatever they want, however they want, bam, go into it. So anyways, maybe another time. Now I wanted to talk about the dirt, though. It still has an impact. Even though there's bike neutralization, it only affects the bikes, and there's dirt on that climb. And like you said, full gas, the drafting's not as good. Like anybody can experience in a TTT, you got to be on that wheel, right? Like, and actually the ability to hold on to a draft is even less than it usually is on a climb. Then with the dirt, then you said they're going to drop anvils on the other side. I think the winning group, though, is from the ones who are strong enough to be with the brake, can jump on a wheel of the anvils, not use their anvil, get over the top of the other side, and on the dirt descent, use an anvil. Like, I think that is going to be your run, because it's going to have so much of an impact on that downhill, and then it'll be a race of who knows how many are left that actually are able to save them. I just gave all of the race tactics, I think, to everybody in the world, though. But Matt's looking at me like, Nathan, shut up.
I do think that the right move is to save the anvil for the second descent. Maybe I shouldn't be saying that, but I think that the first descent's too short to really get a good benefit out of it. And the trick will be on the second descent, it's a 2-tier descent. So some people will hit it right over the top out of kind of a panic. Then it'll run out, and then the pack will come by on the second half with anvils, and they'll get blown by. And catching catching the draft when you're going 5 mile an hour slower, it's not so easy, especially on a steep descent. So I get dropped by like the B-bot on a descent if it goes by me too quickly. So yeah, I think that race, there's just so much that can happen in that race because of, like you said, the lack of draft on dirt with how steep it is. It's like 8 or 9% in that section. And if people are really gutsy and aggressive, a few people can get up the road, and that's just going to be really dangerous.
Okay. There's a lot of people coming into chat that really round 2 is going to be the exciting one to watch because there could be more tactics. There's going to be more splits in the group. There's a bit more strategic dropping of power-ups. So yeah, round 1 is kind of a shootout. And then round 2, we're looking at some real tactical racing, which, I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm hoping that's where the community Zwifters will shine because they'll come out with extreme course knowledge, very, very good use of power-ups. So I'm probably the most excited then for round 2. But then going into round 3 takes us to a whole new level of excitement. I've ridden that crit course. I haven't raced it. Holy shit, man. Like, there are some... I was riding and I looked, I was like, is there a wall in front of me? Like, is my computer, like, has something happened there with the graphics? No, there's that wall that like 10%. And then I did one lap where I tried to sprint up and I was like, this will blow legs 2 pieces. And then if you're even just tailing off the back, you haven't been eliminated, but you're tailing, you go into some downhill. I mean, man, you're gone. Like, this is round 3 is going to be, I mean, what do you think that's just going to be the toughest crit that we have ever seen on Zwift?
I think there's a number of different ways it can play out. It might be the toughest crit, but I more so think it's going to be like a 2-up TT. I just think it's going to be someone's going to get away, like sprint harder than everyone on the first one, get a gap, and then we'll never see them again. It'll be a game. It'll be either a solo TT all the way, someone who's just, like you said, can do insane wattage for 15 minutes and just kind of weather the climbs solo, or it might be like 2 people and it'll be a really crazy game of cat and mouse. I think it's exciting either way. The fact that the pack is eliminated, like let's say there is a breakaway, 2 people go up the road, the fact that the chasing group gets smaller as you go just gives the breakaway more fuel, you know?
Yeah.
So I think the first few banners of the Glasgow crit are going to be people trying to get away because the chasing group's going to get smaller every single time. So it's going to be madness.
With only 10 people, it changes things completely because you don't have that pack that can just snowball itself on that downhill. The separations can really happen. People have to work together a whole lot. I agree. And we saw that in the Metier experience. You know, obviously never, I felt you had one rider in that and I was like, oh man, it was like next versus like SARS no pins and maybe like one SARS no pins and a couple others, you know, so that maybe isn't the best example, but Barney did do exactly what you just said. You know, he hit hard enough times over the top there, broke the pack. It does roll a lot on the other side. I raced it yesterday and I said I was the aggressor on the climb, and then got pretty punished for it though, with just a few riders coming on through because there's those kicks afterwards on downhills that you can really create separation. So it's going to make things really interesting. And I do think you're right that it is going. I think people are going to want the security of breaking everybody with the course. Now, if the course didn't provide the opportunity, it wouldn't feel as secure trying to break everybody with the course. You know what I mean? But because this course provides the opportunity, you feel more secure throwing those things down because everybody has to work as hard as you. They can't just sit in if you use those efforts at the right time.
Yeah, I totally agree. If it was a flatter, more rolling course, and you had to like really get the speed out of yourself, and no one else had to really work, they could just sit in, then the breakaway would not really be successful. But yeah, everyone has to get up that wall every single lap, which is it's a wall. It's really steep.
So Matt, curious here a little bit from the racers and how the race will play out. We talk a lot about prep of the racers. We talk how they're going to race this thing, but this also came in from Michael Sweet and Chad actually on the same wavelength here. What's the DS prep like? He made a joke actually about like wax not instead of waxing your chain, you're waxing your keyboard and making sure everything's all in place. Like, what's the DS prep look like for this kind of a high pressure situation from a tech standpoint, a mental standpoint? There's a lot of probably a couple of different spheres or areas that you're looking at to make sure everything's where it needs to be so that you can do the best job possible.
Yeah, I think that part of my prep has been the fact that I have been in this sport for 7 years, which I think I'm excited for Team USA because every single one of our racers are e-racers. We don't have anyone that's not super active in this community. And then obviously our DSs, myself and Jen Reel, have been immersed in this sport for so long. As far as for these specific races, watching all the events basically that have been taking part on Scotland, watching my teammates race and the other Team USA riders on their streams and really doing the recon on my own. I did race them, but then I also have watched all the streams that they had and paid attention to where their sweet spots are for where they want to finish. I already told the men's team I won't be saying a single word in the last 2 minutes other than whether or not there's like an attack on the front. Because if I try to like look at one person and say go, I don't want to tell someone else to go when it's really not a good spot for them to launch their final move. They all know themselves really well and will know what to do when for those races. For race 1, for race 2 and 3, I think that I've watched enough races on Zwift to know when there's a moment of danger where someone's going to need to close a gap or bridge across a gap if a move's going to look successful. And so yeah, we're gonna try to win the whole race if we can.
I just want to jump in real quick, Anna. I'm just going to highlight that the USA team probably the depth of experience. I don't know, like there's a couple other teams, but you guys have similar years to what you just said across the entirety of the team, which is really exciting to see actually. Like you said, it's pure Zwifters that have a ton of experience. So that's really cool to see to have in a team that way. And you're all so familiar with each other then. Good and bad. I mean, as long as you guys are all working together real well, then that's a good thing, right?
It's been good. All good.
Matt, I do want to say a huge thanks for coming on and chatting to us. Before we close out and move to the fashion segment, can you give us any inside hints to Team USA strategy? Can you tell us anything, a little nugget that won't give away the race? Maybe which race we should watch, which you think will be exciting, something like that.
I guess I've already hinted at it, but I think the right mindset for our team is to be aggressive. These races are short. There's not a lot of opportunity or margin of error to be defensive and watch what other people do. They're just so short, especially like in race 3. If you're trying to play defensive, someone's going to get up the road and your race is over. If you want to every single race, you'll have to race for the win. You can leave nothing on the table. So I would say that be aggressive, which is not giving away too much.
So and then last one, because it came through in chat, it's a really good one. We talk about your team. Who are you worried about? Who do you think's going to win? Who are you worried about? You know what I mean? If not your team, all right, then who are you worried about?
I'll say I wondered if you were going to ask me like who I think is going to win outside of the team USA. Um,
Barney,
because I
James
was
Barnes.
running, what's
Sorry.
that?
James Barnes.
uh, my dark horse pick for non-USA, not even really a dark horse, the Duck, Lionel Vucicin. I would love to see Lionel win. Been racing alongside him for a very long time. So if USA can't win it, that's my pick.
Cool.
It's a good pick. It's a good pick. I think he calls himself the Lion now. He said something about killing the duck. Maybe that's how he like. All right, we'll leave that one alone. But anyways, I don't know how far I want to go into that one. But I saw something about the duck's gone. I'm the lion now. So we'll see what happens. We'll see about the roar.
Cool. Well, thanks,
Well,
Matt,
thank you both
and
for having me on.
yeah, good luck for the Worlds. For me, it's Sunday, so I keep wanting to say Sunday, but good luck for Saturday for your time, and we'll see you on the watch party. But I hope Team USA does really well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, that was awesome, Matt. Thanks a lot, Anna. So cool, Matt Gardiner on. Really, really great. Like, definitely. As far back, I get little notifications either in doing something around Zwift or socials or every time I jump online. And usually within about 30 minutes, I get a ride on, 30 minutes to an hour. I mean, no matter what time, I get a ride on from Matt Gardiner. I mean, those little things like that, like it's little things like that. They're like, oh yeah, there's my buddy in the community who's supporting what I'm up to. I'm supporting what he's up to. You know what I mean? It's so great to have him on and hear his perspective. I think it really helps as well for the community to see the breadth and the depth of this racing culture that we have.
Yeah, it's I mean, this is why we're having the watch party as well, is that there's and I think last year it kind of, I don't know, like maybe I was in a different zone. It didn't feel as like there was as much community, not behind it, but it felt like the worlds were still separate from community. I don't know. This year I feel like we've got some great racing that'll suit community races. We've got teams like Team USA, which is made up only of Zwifters, like they're not pulling in other riders. So I just feel you're there, in commentary as, the voice of Zwift, Zwift Community Live. I just feel like it's got a community push behind it now. And I think we're all like fingers crossed that a community Zwifter will come through. I mean, I've seen in chat that, how epic would it be if the rainbow jerseys are, freaking in ZRL playoffs in a few weeks or racing some event next week. That is what we miss a little as we have. Imagine if, the rainbow jersey in IRL, you don't see them for the next year. They're not in any races. It's like a little bit kind of bitter, I think. And so I wish good luck to everybody, but I wish extra luck to the community member who I will see on Zwift next week, live streaming on Twitch, that kind of thing. So that's what I want to say.
Real quickly, shout out also to the opportunity that's provided to parts of the world that aren't necessarily represented in cycling a whole lot, with Lam Kong coming through, Hironori Sasayuchi out of Japan, Lam Kong out of Hong Kong. So I did see that in chat come through as well. And I really like that, place where we do get new representation in this space. And I hope that they can show up and prove themselves for their country, because we don't really see that a whole lot across the rest of cycling. So.
Yeah, and I will shout out Lam Kong. I raced her in the Continental qualifiers, and I underestimated her, man, and she put us all to shame and crushed us. So I've got a little soft spot for Lam Kong as well, but I've got a soft spot for everyone. I feel like I'm just going to be watching, being like, I want them to win, I want them to win, I want them to win. So yeah. Anyway, super pumped. Let's get on to some fashion, which is worlds related. So I put a post up to put some votes out there. We've got obviously a kit close to my heart. We have the Team New Zealand kit. Now this is not the one for this year, because I just think last year's one was so much better. I don't know why they changed it. This is the black kit that all New Zealanders wear with absolute pride when they represent their country, and it has the silver fern on the back. So, in my opinion, I think this is just the best kit out there. an esport world champs. But I did have a couple of people come in. I mean, it got high votes. It was getting like 10s and 9s. Someone gave it a 5 and said it was a bit bland, but I'll put that aside. The other kits that were pushed forward was Team USA, Belgium, and Team Australia. So those are the other 3 that were put forward. But yeah, I just love the Kiwi kit. What do you think, Nathan?
Yeah, actually, those are all. It's interesting. Those are the 3 that are put forward, and I do think that those are the 3. Outside of the NZ kit, Australia came to mind. I really like that green gold, in there. USA for me, it's home country, so I see those colors like all the time, and I don't know if I just like things being different. USA does have a good looking kit. They really do have a good looking kit, and Belgium as well. But I do have to say that black and white with the silver. I don't know. This is solid. Like, I think you guys look the coolest, honestly. I have to agree with you.
Yes.
I'm not kidding. Like, I actually really, really like the NZ kit. When I saw this, I was like, whoa, they're looking, and it stands because of the contrast too. I think kind of a little bit, and it's a little bit different and creative in some ways. Where some of the team kits, I think, in for good, respectable reasons, they try and match the country flag. It tends to go toward not quite as it tends to go toward very geometrically, straight lines in ways so that you can really recognize the flag. I feel like here, you brought the country, flavor to it in the same way, but it has a little bit more creativity around it in not being so straight line, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks, Nathan. I'll take that. And I mean, I know your broadcasting and your commentary on the weekend will be a lot more professional, so I doubt there's going to be any fashion chat in there at all. It's
well,
just
you never know with Matt. You never know with Matt. He likes to throw something in there here and there. We won't dwell, but we'll see.
But I will tell you that I will be talking a lot about all the different countries and how they look during the watch party, as well as the fact that I think a lot of countries, because all the bikes are neutralized, you've now got free slather to just pick some epic bike that matches your kit, because who cares how slow it is. So I want to see some all risk there, and someone's just going with the steel bike with a custom paint job. That would be like,
will anyone ride a mountain bike? Because it doesn't matter. That's another question. Will anyone? I mean, that would be pretty. Do we have any pure mountain bikers showing up? I don't think we do. That'd be really funny if somebody did throw on the mountain bike, because it'll go just as fast as the rest of the bikes. They're all neutralized.
I know, exactly. I if it was me personally, I'd still be going such a fast bike because I'd be so paranoid that for some reason there'd be something that would happen.
Work? Something. Oh my gosh.
Okay, garage pick of the week. Now, this was actually due to you, Nathan. You mentioned these gloves in last week's show because we saw them paired up with one of the jerseys. Now, these are the and there was also chat that came in last week, so I wanted to sort of give kudos to that someone said all the gloves in Zwift are terrible. Now, I went through all the gloves, and yeah, I mean, they're pretty bad, but these I don't mind. Now, the reason I don't mind them is what I like about these level 50 to 60 unlocks. I mean, these are a really early unlock, like a level 33, but they're retro fluoro pink blue gloves. Now, what you could do is with all these new retro unlocks, you got the retro kit, you got the retro bike paint job, you got those kind of retro glasses. You could chuck these on as well and just have a whole retro kit. So this is why I liked these, is that even though they're a level 33, they're going to pair really well with some level 50 plus unlocks.
Yeah, I definitely like these. As far as the gloves go, it's like these ones when you're going something a little bit flashier. And besides that, I kind of just go with the black or a white. That's really the only ones I really head towards. So these are amongst my top 3 picks when it comes to gloves for sure. It really always goes with any kind of Tron too. I mean, obviously you paired it with the blue there, or if you go with something that's a little more purple towards that Evo kit or something along those lines. So I give these I don't know, 8.5. What do you think?
Oh, good. Yeah, I mean, if we're going comparatively to all the other gloves, they're almost a 10. I mean, the rest are pretty shocking. I do want to say though, the sock unlocks I talked about last week with doing some of the like training plans has motivated me to do some training plans over our winter. So fashion is actually motivating some training. There we go. That's probably all the fashion chat that Nathan can handle for today's show. Now, I won't mention the T word. Someone has come into chat to say, just mention it. I was like, I think Nathan will hang up. So no more mentioning the T word. We will keep that low now. No more mentioning that. But Nathan, you're in the UK. What have you got coming up? Obviously, we all know what you got coming up this weekend. But anything else off the side? Do you have any time for some tourist activity, or will you rent a bike or something?
I've been chatting with Kim Little a little bit over the last 24 hours. Hopefully be able to meet up with an ex-UK national champion of Zwift, actually, and see if maybe do a little bit of riding. I don't know if that's going to happen. We got some work tomorrow at GCN, and then obviously Saturday. So I asked for a solid, I don't know, I couldn't get into the hotel room, check-ins later. So I walked around. That was my work. Maybe we'll find the gym for a little bit, maybe find a bike. I really would like, now that we talked about like Zwift in gyms, that's been like a topic as how this is going to extend out. I'm like, yeah, Zwift in gyms. Like there should be one downstairs so I can just go jump on Zwift right now because I'm traveling quickly and I need to be Zwifting. What's happening? So locals to Bath, where's your Zwift setup? I got my pedals and I got my shoes. So
Great. You'll find someone.
Right.
Everyone's saying go to a pub. So maybe ride to a pub, check it out. Have you been to the UK before?
Yeah, twice. So
Okay.
one of the first CVR World Cups was in London, and then we had the British national championships there in London as well. They were at the Olympic Park that they had set up there in that area. So outside of that, only my third time, and I hadn't traveled outside of London actually. So got to see some countryside, and I'm doing a little bit of the touristy thing. I mean, the architecture is amazing, and just kind of checking out the difference in brothers and sisters across the pond who might speak the same language but a little differently, and and their ways, our ways, and UK ways are a little bit different, and it's interesting to pick up on all that.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, awesome. Well, I'm going to head out and go swimming in the ocean tomorrow. We've had a cyclone going on, so the oceans have been pretty crazy. So I haven't done that for a little while. I think that'd be good recovery. And then pretty much for me, it's Sunday morning. For the rest of the world, Saturday. But we'll be tuning in and watching, commenting, chit-chatting with Chris from Zwift about Worlds, talking about how great a job Nathan's doing. And that'll be it. And then I think next week, huge rundowns, I guess, about what happened in Worlds.
Of course.
Yeah,
that's all we're going to talk about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be epic. So I'm super excited. Nathan, you look after yourself over there, and the best of luck for you for the commentary gig. Super pumped for you, and we'll see you next week.
Sounds good, everybody. Just remember, this is a podcast as well, so you can download all of this on everywhere that you are able to listen to podcasts. Just go ahead and search The Wrap and Zwift. It should come up real quickly. Been live on YouTube and Facebook today, I believe. Is that right, Anna?
That's right.
Live?
That's right.
Yep, YouTube and Facebook today. No, I'm nothing on Twitch, so if anybody asks you, go ahead and just let them know where it's at. Share it up, everybody. It helps out a lot. If you got some friends that are wondering what World is all about, this as well as the GCM preview show is probably the best way to know what it's about before we go live on Saturday on GCN and Eurosport. And obviously here with the Watch Party with Anna. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And Anna, thanks so much for doing productions while I'm traveling. Really, really appreciate it. So we'll see you guys next week for Wrap episode number 32. As always, everybody, right on.